Yeah, so today I was asked to talk about Filecoin success story. So basically, I'm just going to cover like how I went from being an engineer and researcher to being a founder. I'm going to talk over what Banyan does, and then I don't know how many new nucleating founders there are in here, but I was just going to talk through some of the stuff I learned that made my company start working a lot better, and can hopefully spare you a year or more of pain if you. And there's my team. Help, guys. So I don't know. This talk may be slightly mistargeted, so whatever. We're hanging out. Yeah, so here's the title. Me building in the Filecoin ecosystem, you building in the Filecoin ecosystem. Because yeah, it's actually founding is definitely a learning journey, but yeah, like you can do it too. Yeah, so what is this? Wait. Oh, for my phone. Oh, thank you. Okay, power bank. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I am into computers and math. I've been into cryptography since high school. Got into crypto through Trail of Bits, being an auditor and researcher. Freelanced around during DeFi summer. Highly recommend poking your nose into the Filecoin ecosystem to learn more about the rest of crypto. I worked at Protocol Labs for a while, and then I had an idea, got a grant, went to BCs and raised, which a lot of nucleating founders are actually going to have a lot of help with. I didn't have that help, so yeah, you'll have an easier time. It'll be good. But yeah, and then we pivoted about a year in, did 6 months of market research, and now we're building. We're closing our second fundraise, and we're getting into being a growth stage thing. So what exactly does Banyan do? Maybe I should have led with this. But yeah, we onboard data to Filecoin. There is a lot. So Filecoin keeps the hard drives online. And then there's a lot to do between that and actually selling it to customers. A lot of SPs have been doing this thus far. It's a very difficult task. And maybe, the SPs shouldn't be individually building products on their own. So there's, I think, 15 or 16 different things, like different tasks that must be done between payments and SLAs and retrievals and various cybersecurity things. There's a bunch of legal and compliance and insurance things that need to be done. So we do all of that, sometimes in centralized ways, sometimes in not centralized ways. And yeah, so we do onboarding to Filecoin. It's a lot of things. So yeah, current decentralized solutions don't cut it for Web 2 or Web 3. Very few. Yeah. So like the front ends that you see, there's a lot of Web 3 data that can't even be onboarded to Filecoin because the current interfaces don't suit their needs, for various reasons. Security, ease, and cost. Security includes, cybersecurity, but also legal concerns, SLA, retrieval monitoring, all sorts of stuff, us carrying insurance, before like data whales can onboard. And that's really what we need to fill the many exabytes of storage that are on Filecoin. So we want to solve this without centralizing too much. So either we build a thing that is decentralized or we build a thing that is decentralizable in the future. So that's generally Banyan's strategy. So what do we build? You may have tried our interface. That's the front end, but 90% of our time, the 25,000 lines of code that Sam Stelfox right there wrote a lot of, hello Sam, is we have re-replication, data aggregation, so turning the data from little blocks into car files, a hot storage layer. We have cybersecurity, so that's permissioning on retrievals, and then our own cybersecurity policies, as well as cybersecurity SLAs for SPs that are participating with us. End-to-end encryption, privacy, data provenance is baked into the file system format that we had to write ourselves, as an encrypted and verified provenant alternative to UnixFS. So basically you control your own data. It's kind of like a data wallet, or it will evolve into that over time. We embedded it into, so we have compliance, insurance, and SLAs extended to the entire Filecoin network. We're going to be SOC 2 Type 1 soon through Banyan. So generally, like, enterprise customers can use us. Fast, easy, and user-friendly. So all of this infrastructure, the data wallet, we've embedded into a nice front end, a CLI, a SDK coming soon, and we're going to have an S3 compatible interface where we actually do the end-to-end encryption and data provenance stuff on our hardware instead of, so it, loses some verifiability features, but, it's S3, which is what a lot of people want. So we're embedding it into a whole bunch of different products because that's the basics that people expect in the market. Like if you're going to use Backblaze, you expect to be able to click in an interface instead of just like hit it from an S3 endpoint. So we're building all of these things, all end-to-end encrypted. Like we do that encryption and decryption in the browser, that's a lot of fun wrestling WASM. And then incentives, we take fiat from customers through Stripe, very boring, they love it. And then we pay the SPs in fiat, which really helps them with their operations as well. Web 2 facing branding and marketing. We're currently building that out and iterating on it. And then, yeah, we'll have desktop sync, mobile app, and S3 compatibility sometime soon. So yeah, it's been a lot. We've been building for 8 months. The front end interface is really like kind of a tiny corner of all the things that we've built, and really just like the very durable pipeline and all the monitoring and telemetry and stuff on the SPs is like going to be the big push of the next while, I guess. So yeah. Okay, so that's a TLDR of what Banyan does very, very rapidly. I actually wanted to spend most of the time in this talk about like, I didn't realize that I could found in this ecosystem, but the ecosystem is actually a pretty cozy place to found. And at the start of Banyan, I did a bunch of goofy things, and I think it like took us an entire year to kind of get on the right path. But, now we have a ton of like LOIs from people. We have a bunch of cold inbound interest wanting to buy things from us. And we're a plausible storage alternative in Web 2 and building out a Web 2 enterprise, sales, we're raising, things are going well, but there's a lot I had to learn to get there. So I'm just gonna very rapidly, I think my talk's actually gonna be shorter than half an hour, but, I'm going to go through that. And then if you guys have any questions about being a founder, I've had a lot of really good mentorship in the past 2 years that helped me succeed. So we can talk about that too, if you're nucleating and curious. So yeah, what are you building with who to start? Pick something you like that you can get other people to care about. So if you don't like it, you're going to hate your job and you're not going to be motivated. And being a founder is like a 60-hour-a-week plus job. It literally like invades every portion of your life. So I would really recommend you pick something you like, because if you hate it, you will not do a good job. If you don't like it, you'll quit. With who? Pick someone trustworthy. A co-founder and the early team is like marriage. It is just as painful to cut off. I would not, just make sure that you set up your legal documents correctly and that you've known the person for a year and that you do vesting. How do you raise? VCs can smell BS. So, unless you really actually do feel good about your path to revenue or your path to a token that isn't going to be a goofy excuse to launch a token, don't go to the VCs. You're not ready yet. Once you go there, though, if you have a good strategy to revenue, you will receive funding. Generally pitch a lot. Expect to be rejected quite a bit. Don't get emotional about it. Just keep pitching. You'll be okay. Protocol Labs has a lot of really good mentorship for raising funds. If you seemed knowledgeable, experienced, serious, and have a good network, that can really go a long way. So work on that network, work on your professionalism, make your slide deck look somewhat nice. I am not always good at making my slide deck look somewhat nice, as you see. Never hire marketers or salespeople until you have something like PMF, which is generally people are coming to you and asking to use your product cold. They're saying, hey, when can I onboard? Hey, when can I onboard? And if you're a two-sided marketplace, that should be like coming from both sides of the market, ideally. Don't hire them until then. They won't be able to sell. You were the first salesperson. Don't hire a dev shop unless you know what you're doing. So unless you feel like you know what you're doing, don't do that. That's tempting as an early founder. And then what do you do next? Now that you have an idea and maybe you have some money, 5 may need to be scooted up to 1. Know who your customer is and know who's paying you money. Those may be different people. So the people who are paying us money are Web 2 customers right now. But I would say our customers the people who really want us the most are kind of Filecoin SPs right now, because they really want fiat revenue. They really want to fill up their desk space. So these might be different people, which means that your branding strategy and your communication is going to need to be weird. So have clarity of thought about that and just be very, very realistic about it. Talk to the people whose demand you're satisfying a lot. It will keep you on track so that you're not building stupid stuff. And then iterate on product rapidly until they like it. So put something in front of them, let them try it, let them tell you whether they like it or not. You can even just say, would you like this? But sometimes they'll lie. And ignore everything else. Like, ignore other people's input because they don't really know what's going on. They're not in the relationship between you and the customer. That includes your VCs. Frequently, they don't know what's going on. Emergency advice. So if everything's on fire, which everything will be on fire a couple of times, watch Y Combinator videos online. They're very comforting. Ask exited founders questions. There are a lot of them. The PLN wants to support you if you're building something interesting. And they will, have a good experienced executive coach. If you raised money and you probably will do something silly with it because you don't know what you're doing at some point. You have a fiduciary duty and a lot of responsibility. You may hire the wrong person. You should talk with an executive coach through all of these things, preferably someone who's been executive at another startup that's been successful. They will prevent you from making a lot of really critical, very expensive mistakes. Talk to your investors, but use your judgment about what you say. Talk to your team. You should be able to trust your team and be able to talk to them. You don't need to share everything, but you should be able to share about 90% if you're in an early stage startup under about 8 people. Otherwise, you have probably made bad hiring decisions. Make founder friends and talk to them. Talk to your customers. Read a lot of startup books because there's really good advice in there. And, other people have been through this before. Take vacations. Pivot if you're not getting customer feedback and do it as early as possible. If your idea is bad and you are not getting good customer feedback, then you should do something else and you should pull off that Band-Aid as quickly as possible and just move into something else. As a new Filecoin founder specifically, talk to Mosaic to get recommendations for service providers for setting up your entity. That includes lawyers, that includes branding, that includes like your dev shop, your PR, everything. There's a lot of very bad service providers who will take a lot of money from you and do absolutely nothing. So reference check them with other founders, but Mosaic is like kind of a built-in thing if you don't have a reference or if you don't have a network that you may not as an early stage founder. And make sure you direct everyone efficiently, especially lawyers, because they will, spend a lot of money. They will spend a lot of billable hours unless you say, cap this at 6 billable hours and then call me if you're not done. That is a strategy that I use regularly with lawyers. It's very good. PLN loves to make intros between their portcos. Sometimes they are useless. Sometimes you will be inundated with them, but it's always nice to help other founders and they will help you in return. You can get onto people's calendar for basically free, which a lot of other people won't give you the time of day when you're an early stage founder. Web3 is weird. A lot of VCs want to see tokens. So if you don't have a good token plan that's sane, VCs will pass on you. Don't get offended. If you're going for revenue, then you are not going for the thing that their fund is going for. So just be cognizant of that. You will get passed. I mean, we're going more for revenue and we have some token ideas. So we had some funds pass on us because of that. And then, Web 2 funds will be like, what the hell are you doing? Stay away from me. So yeah, just be ready to be rejected for that. But Filecoin and the investors who are looking closely at Filecoin portcos investing there are much more long-term focused. Like we told all of our investors coming into the next round, hey, we have a 10-year vision. Are you on board for that? And they were. And so that was how we filtered out who ended up on our cap table. Pick carefully who ends up in your cap table. But Filecoin, these investors are not trying to get you to pump a token and leave in 2 years as much as some other ecosystems. Number 4 is you might think that you can just float along in the ecosystem without finding your own customers and kind of like fighting for yourself. Like that's not true. Just because you're building something cool and vaguely Filecoin aligned in the Filecoin ecosystem does not mean that you will get, continued funding, continue to get flowed on, continue to get resources. You need to find your own customers. You need to work for your dinner. So just remember, nobody's going to save you except yourself. However, people do want to help. Help will come to you if you help yourself. An ecosystem is, very friendly. If you were building the things that a lot of the nucleating projects are building without being in an ecosystem and being aligned with people, it would be a lot unfriendlier to start up. But we're in Filecoin land and people are trying to help each other. If I see a project that I think helps the network, I will go help that founder, even if I would not have helped that founder if they're, not in Filecoin land, not aligned with me. So yeah, just make sure you're nice to other people. Your network is really valuable. Keeping a nice, peaceful, and mutual aid filled environment within the Filecoin ecosystem is super important. So it's very important for all founders to do that. But yeah, given you will receive, your network is really, really good. How to Win Friends and Influence People is actually a great book to read, even if you feel like you already know this stuff. So yeah, I think that's all. Wow, this slide is so messed up. Oh, well. But anyway, yeah, that's our contact form. But I think I can probably open up for 5 minutes if anyone has questions. I don't know how many of you. Oh, okay, cool. Hi.
You mentioned people input from all around. What's your consensus algorithm for taking that input and then figure out what to act on? Because you get a lot of noise, and how do you reduce it down to a signal? Somebody might say this, somebody might say this, and you're left in a quandary. And almost sometimes you get indecision with so much input.
Yeah, I think over time you realize who in your network and who on your team is smart about which things. And so I just pick those people and go to them for advice. I had one investor on my cap table who I like him. I think he's really smart, but he sees all these deep end tokens launching and he was like, you need to do it now. You'll get a lot of liquidity. You'll have a lot of money to, power your company through the next couple of years. And I really thought about it hard, but I also talked to other people on my cap table, and I realized, like, you know, it's not the time for that. Like, we have to focus on shipping and delivering first. So I don't know. I just get consensus from people you respect, and over time you'll realize who's respectable and who's smart, and weight those opinions heavier, and always understand people's motivations, especially when they're external to your company or other founders. Like, I've had other founders ask me to pivot, try to convince me it was a really good idea, and then I realized, oh, you're very motivated for me to do that. Okay. So yeah, I don't know. Just always be beige and updating on the people's motivations and how much you trust them, and know who you can trust and talk through things with. I guess, you know, the same as you make any other decision in your life. Yeah, I don't know. I think we are way off schedule. Do you want me to get off?
It's here to give the mic.
Oh, okay.
We have schedule, so I'll leave that to James.
Okay.
Question.
Are we good? Chill. Yeah, if anyone wants to talk to me about being a founder, I have consumed more Y Combinator videos than anyone on this earth. So happy to talk to you about best founder practices, although I'm not a master.